you always turn up, and you make the game what it is. So we think you deserve a better betting experience. Every time you bet with Fanatic Sportsbook, win or lose, you get up to 5% of your wager back in fan cash. Spend it on jerseys, fan gear, bonus bets, and more. And for a limited time, bet and get up to $1,000 in bonus bets over 10 days. Welcome to the most rewarding sportsbook.
And good afternoon, racing fans. Welcome to Hawthorne Racecourse for a Sunday afternoon of thoroughbred action. Jim Miller and Emily Gullikson down here in our mezzanine level studio on a little bit of a humid, a little bit of a warm Sunday afternoon. We had overnight showers, but Emily, this track drains very, very well. It's in great shape today. Fast main track, only 4 scratches on the card too.
Yeah, it stayed intact, and this card I thought was really tough and competitive, and I thought the weather could make things a little bit trickier, but it stopped raining, I don't know, around like 9:30 this morning, and it, like you said, it's been pretty warm and humid, dries out perfectly, so not even much wind, so expect a fair racetrack as always. Yeah, and even with the pretty strong headwind in the lane yesterday, it still played relatively evenly for the 8-race card, so I found that to be a little bit interesting, because normally it's a little bit more of a front track with that headwind, but there were some horses that were coming from out of it, so that's a good sign. And then the other thing that's a good sign, we're only a week away from turf. We're a week away from Kentucky Derby. They drew the race yesterday. Everybody's got a full week to handicap this race now, too. Yeah, but I think they've been done for like 4 months. Everybody's had their picks in and everything. And yeah, it's just kind of fine-tuning and making those little bit of tweaks. Maybe some horses you were on the fence with, kind of upgrade, downgrade based on what you've seen as far as the works and then the post. You know, the post thing, it comes into play because everybody's just kind of talking about stats, right? But everything is conditional. On how prior races have ran based on those type of race shapes and how certain horses are going to work a trip in here. And I thought, you know, kind of like last year, there really wasn't anybody that took the worst of it. Maybe Sierra Leone. I know there's some, you know, some backers that are like totally fine with it, and that's great. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Sierra Leone's going to be a horse I toss. I'm not going to use him anywhere. I love the stat about fierceness with post 17. Oh, nobody's ever won from post 17. Well, you got to look through all the horses that ran in post 17 too, because you never know. I mean, this is a horse that I think is like I said, it's the most likely favorite. It's the most battle-tested horse, I think, from a high-class type of race type of advantage. But again, you just never know what's going to happen. You miss the break by one step, everything changes. Somebody wings it out there, everything changes. There's definitely not going to be value with that horse in a 20-horse field, but you expect the horse will be there late. Yeah, I mean, he's also, too, when he's on his A game and he runs his race, I mean, he is the horse to beat. But there's still those questions that when he doesn't show up, I mean, he just doesn't show up. Right. And he's all or nothing, right? Yeah, he's all, exactly. That's the way to put it. He's all or nothing, and that can always give you some reservations, especially when you have horses doing something new. But other than that, I mean, I think he's a legitimate favorite. He's not one that I'm gonna toss. I think I'm probably in your camp as far as Sierra Leone. But at the same time, he's not gonna be the horse that I keep. I'm gonna, key on some other ones. You know, I'm gonna keep him in the mix because, you know, even if fierceness does win, and Chris Larmy's podcast, Bet with the Best, he had Mike Maloney on, and they talked about this, just to reiterate that even when you get like those favorites that win, you get a little bit of chaos underneath, and it still pays. So, you know, if you don't want to completely toss a horse that makes sense just because of price, you just have to get creative. Right, exactly. It's how you use that racehorse, how you choose to kind of compose your wagers around it, and we'll see how things work out. You and I are both going to do an expanded analysis on the website. You're also going to do your Derby preview as well as the other races on the Churchill card. You're going to be out at the OTB Network Thursday night, is that correct? Thursday, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. A couple hours. It's always fun, you know, just getting people out and talking about the races. I've already been kind of thinking about different things of how I want to present the races, you know, because it's not just, you know, sit down and listen to me talk, you know, and I want people to feel that they can interact and leave kind of learning something or feel that they can, if I say something like question it, be like, why do you like that? Or why aren't you thinking about this, etc. And I think it's a really good format, and hopefully we'll get some new faces out there because we did try to promote it into the community as well. Yeah, it will be a whole lot of fun. It's a busy week, but it'll be a great week. And we're racing live here on Kentucky Derby Day too. So along with everybody coming out making their Derby wagers, they're going to be able to watch live racing here at Hawthorne. That's our first scheduled day for the turf as well too. So we enter for that card Tuesday, and we'll see how things unfold for that. All right, 8 races today here at Hawthorne on the Sunday card. Again, we do have the fast track for the 8-race card. Only 4 scratches here. 1 scratch coming in the opener with the 3 Sapphire Knights, who is going to be, I thought, a very tough horse to beat in this race. That one's out. We welcome David Cohen into the Hawthorne Jocks Room as he's going to be riding here at Hawthorne throughout the course of the summer. He's aboard the 4 Heavenly Hash as Chris Amy's off his mounts today.
Looking up and down the board right now, Heavenly Hash is your current 4 to 5 favorite. I have that one in the mix. I thought Heart of Hanish could be pretty tough as well. But I think we kind of thought similarly that we thought Sapphire Nights was going to be the horse to beat.
Yeah, and even though they were going to be a 3-year-old taking on Older, just seemed like the right spot. And then you gave Heavenly Hash a little bit of a look, just thinking, okay, well, if they're not going to be favored, maybe they've got to look to show some early speed, sit off Heart of Hanish. But now my opinion's going to kind of shift because certainly Heavenly Hash can win, but 4 to 5 in this race where it did have a little bit of a setup last out in order to get that win, and the scratch might even benefit Heart of Hanish just in terms of having that early speed. And the odds to me just are much more appealing right now. Obviously we'll cycle back around, but 7 to 2 is more appealing than the 4 to 5. And then I gave the long shot Holy Image a look as well, because I just thought, if there is that scenario where Heavenly Hash, Heart of Hanish decide to duke it out, Holy Image can be sitting right there.
I didn't think it was a bad race out of Holy Image in that last.
No,
that was a
not
horse
at
that
all.
was coming back there, second start of the meet, second start of the off the layoff. It was sloppy, 5.5, and the horse was closing ground late. So you go a 16th of a mile further. I think things line up for this horse to be in the mix, and they're getting some backing at 5 to 1. Heart of Hanish is a horse that we talked last weekend about the fact that Antonio Miraz is going to start to heat up. Grabbed a winner on yesterday's card. I think this is a horse that could be very tough. You're going to start to see a lot of horses from this barn run some very good races. So I'm with you. I like the chances of Heart of Hanish in this spot. I think this one can show speed and contend the entire way around. That's the horse I'm going to look to in today's opener. Second race on the card, Starter Optional Company, $13,500 is the price tag. They go 1 mile and 70 yards. Julio Felix rides the 6, set the pace. Scratch the 7, Silky Warrior, set the pace. I think the horse you have to start out with in this spot comes from the barn of Scott Becker. Goes the mile in that last out at Fairmount Park, but it's been away since October. What do you make on this one off the return?
Well, they're coming in as advertised because Set the Pace is likely to set the pace and could just be the controlling speed in this race. So you have to at least merit that scenario. And Julio Felix being very assertive. The outside post, it's just one of those things where they're going to go. And if there might not be anybody that can run with Set the Pace, so there's certainly that scenario. Now, if things do bunch up, or you mentioned the layoff, I think Izzy's Monster is probably the one that's taking the action right now as an alternative in there. But I also wanted to give a mention to Memphis Cash Queen, just one to keep in the mix. Took a lot of money last out. Was one of the things that we mentioned. Didn't have the most ideal trip, as you mentioned. The weather conditions was wide. So if there is that kind of scenario where they bunch up, could throw that one in the mix. But I think it's in terms of the early pace. Set the Pace is the horse to beat on the front end.
That is the horse that should be carving things out on the front end for sure. Memphis Cash Queen, you made a good point, because that one in that last out sent off at odds of 7 to 2, bet down quite a bit, chased early on before giving way. But I like the fact that Orlando Mojica stays aboard today. And that was off what I would say they probably deemed as a little bit of a disappointing effort. But that was the first off a layoff, so should show more. Blessed Anna is the one that I went to. The Honor Net Barn has been good throughout the course of the meet. 3 starters yesterday, was 2 seconds and a third. Everything just kind of seems to be running well. This one comes out of that same race with Izzy's Monster in that last out, and this was the horse that was actually the 2 to 1 choice in that race. And I'm not necessarily sure that they were where they wanted to be early on. It was an outside draw. They were maybe back a little bit more than they wanted to be in the slop that day, but did run on late.
Slow.
Yeah. So you get the fast track return today. Inside draw, maybe rates a little bit closer for a barn that's been very good all meet long. So Blessed Anna was the horse that I liked on top there in race number 2. Third race on the card, we scratched the 1. That's Freedom Attack, but Vance Childers still has the 3. Fergie Attack in the spot. $25,000 claimers, non-winners of 2 lifetime. They go 3/4 of a mile. You and I are usually very good when we have similar horses on top, and we do here. We both like the 5, Cowgirl Frankie. The break is always the key for this racehorse, but if Cowgirl Frankie can get away in good order, she should be very tough.
I'm less optimistic. She tends to always break slow, so I'm counting on her to break slow again. But even if she does break slow, I think that it could work into her favor, because the way this race shape stacks up, there's many that want to be on or near the lead, and if they do bunch up and it is contentious, she comes flying late. She's got a huge late kick, has the fitness. Again, broke slow last out, but a big, massive late kick. So I'm hoping they bunch up and she makes that late run.
Yeah, I think this is a race that last year probably would have been really hard to make, because these Illinois-bred horses may not have wanted to run for the $25,000. This year you look, Position Dumani, Fergie Attack, Cowgirl Frankie, all in for $37,500, because they can run for that 50% higher claiming tag, and you make a race like this. And it's a good, solid race. But yeah, Cowgirl Frankie, you just got to get away from the gate, and that's kind of the key. I mean, you dig back through. This was a horse that in the 3rd chance last year ran a pretty good race after getting off slowly and finished 4th.
Yeah.
I mean, faces some quality horses and does some running. So it's just just get out of the gate. That's all it is. And it's
or let them cook in front of you and
Right.
then just come running. Yeah.
And
yeah.
there may be a better potential there. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, position Dumani, Fergie attack, both likely to show some speed. Hop away, Hottie wouldn't surprise me by any means. That one first off the claim and right back at the same level. But it is. That's a good competitive bunch there for today's third. Fourth race on the card, $4,000 claimers in this spot. They go 1 mile and 70 yards. It's a field of 7 to line up in here. Baba's Boy is a horse that's interesting. We talked about it last time, how the horse was just bad race after bad race after bad race, like really, really ugly races on paper at Oaklawn Park. And then all of a sudden that last out, you find things much easier. You take a ton of action. Ran a really good race in that spot. Almost got the job done at 7-2. The horse will not provide any value today.
Exactly. Yeah. So I went somewhere a little bit different. Obviously, certainly capable on Baba's Boy, but the race shape is just a little bit different today, and you're not going to get quite the odds.
Right.
And if there is a scenario that, even if under a similar trip, you could find some horses that have a similar running style that are a little bit varied that can offer value. Number 2, Stormborn being one of those. The ride was less than ideal 2 weeks ago, so I think the fact that they're going to come right back could get that same type of run style. Same thing, Millard Smile maybe is going to be a little bit more obvious coming off the win. But even if they do kind of let a horse go on the front end, that could open up where the day go.
Right,
To steal this race on the front end. So there's a lot of ways to go. Basically, the long story short is there's a lot of ways to go in here that taking a short price is not going to be the way I'm going to go.
And I want to watch and see kind of how the board is, because I was back and forth. I almost went to where did they go in this spot. With Eduardo Rodriguez leaving both in, Millard Smile and Blurt. Blurt's the one that goes out there if Baba's Boy goes out there and Blooming Garden goes out there, and they all kind of duke it out on the front end. Then Millard Smile gets a dream trip and just kind of rates and comes running at him late. I did go to Baba's Boy. I might have gotten sucked into it a little bit off that last out. I mean, yes, it was an improved effort in there. They didn't go that fast. It was 48 and 2 to the half, 13 and change for 3/4, but not a bad effort in finishing second. If you're going to win, this is the spot you're going to win. But I
agree.
I don't know if it's going to be the case or not. And you're right, no value there, really.
Yeah, and I mean, our picks aren't set in stone. That's the best thing, right? We come in and at post time, we'll be able to have visuals, we'll be able to see a board, and you make adjustments in play. And I think that's just like one of the best things, right? We kind of set ourselves up with a roadmap, and then when it's game time, then you make the right decision. Your third pick might be the one, or a horse you thought could finish fourth, all of a sudden looks to stand out, and you upgrade.
I mean, if all of a sudden there's a pace duel up there and it's a back track, a horse like Pistol Box even comes into the mix, because that's a horse that usually is way back, but has shown the potential to put together a string of races. The last time he did it was the fall of 22. But if he kind of gets back on track, he can just string together some races, and he would do so at a decent price there in today's fourth. Fifth race on the card, $5,000 claimers go 1 mile and 70 yards. This starts to 50 cent, a late pick 4. In race number 5, you get a field of 8 to line up in this spot. Taparinea is the horse that I didn't know what to do with this horse at all, Emily. I know you gave the horse a little bit of a look in here, but it was more just, but it was more just your analysis talking about this horse, because it was a whole lot of string of turf races. You run on the dirt. I think the end goal probably is turf for this horse, though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this race that you could make a case for every single horse in this field, and I thought as far as being one of the shorter price horses, she was the one I was least interested in, not because she can't win, but because of the price scenario. And I mean, this is another race that we'll get a chance to look at the board and get a look at the horses, because so many can make sense. I mean, I'd give Emitas the edge over Taparinea. Timeless Glory, I think, fits logically in here, could offer some value. Dialed Inna has a similar run style, and even if they kind of heat up a little bit, Point of Infinity has kind of some sneaky races that would fit in here.
And you're right, and you can make a case for anybody. I mean, I ended up going on top in the spot to Emitas, this one from the John Horan barn. John, by the way, has had an incredible Oaklawn meet. We were just talking about that upstairs in the press box this morning. But
he beat me out of a photo yesterday.
Did he? Yeah, he's had over 700,000 in earnings this week. It's
well, he won that graded stakes race.
Yeah.
So with a claimed horse, I mean, his horses are running and spotting him well. And then also another thing that John Heron does is, he runs his horses.
Right.
And lets them kind of race into shape and lets them develop, and then just kind of figures out where they're going to go. But they're fit. Like the horse yesterday, there was 3 horses together at the wire, just kind of kept grinding and got up in time.
That's the reason I went to Emitas, just for the fact that that last race, I don't even know if they needed it, but they got that race under their belt, and the horse was very game to the wire, showed that speed, battled the whole way around. Looking up and down this field, I didn't see a ton of really early pace in this race. I mean, Timeless Glory can go out there and kind of rate close if they're going slowly, but doesn't necessarily need the lead or want the lead in here. After that, I mean, maybe Morning Line News can rate close, but there's really nobody committed to the front end. So Could be a bunched up race where they're going 48 and change to the half, 49, and it's just whoever kicks away. Dialed In is an interesting racehorse. Jose Rodriguez has had himself a really good meet thus far, and this one raced against much tougher in the slop in that last out. So I think you do have, it's another race where you watch the board, see who's taking action in the doubles, see what the prices are in here. But I found this to be a very intriguing race. It's a really tough race to end the pick 5, early pick 4, and bridge the gap to the start of the late pick 4.
Exactly. We should give ourselves an extra minute or two when the race comes up to talk about it in real time, because it is a tough one. And
it's perfect timing today, because for that race, that's about when all the East Coast tracks are really kind of finishing up their cards. So a lot of focus comes over here to Hawthorne for that race, and with the start of the late pick 4, you probably, I could make a case for going 5 or 6 deep in there to kick off the late pick 4 for sure. Race 6, this is a really good race. $50,000 optional claimant allowance runners in here. They go 1 mile and 70 yards. Scratch the 5 code runner. Leaves you with a field of 7 to line up in the spot. And looking up and down the field, I mean, you get Camp Daddy, who's stepping up to face much tougher in here. Regular guy from the Catalano barn should be pretty tough. Ardenwood's a horse that should be pretty tough. I guess first thing to determine is what the pace scenario is going to be. And then second thing, just who's good enough to win this race.
Yeah, my whole game plan changed because
Code Runner was your horse.
Code Runner was my horse. And it's so funny because I saw Hugo last week down in the PointsBet Sportsbook, and I was following Code Runner from that most recent Keeneland race, and I wanted to be like, hey, where's Code Runner going to show up? But I couldn't remember the horse's name, and so I didn't want to be like, hey, where's that 10 horse you ran at Keeneland? So then I saw him here, and I was like, oh, this is it. It's home free. But I think it's kind of the same idea in terms of pace, that Ardenwood's going to be out there early. Ardenwood could wire the field unless Camp Daddy does the same thing and tries to send and go and then put some pace in there. And then same thing on the outside as
Read the Cliff
Notes, who ran a huge race last out. He could get himself in the race, or at least just keep the pace honest. And then it sets up for a horse like Regular Guy. And Regular Guy is kind of the one I just kind of defaulted to, because I thought he's got to turn things around. But if there was ever a time and place, this would be it.
Yeah, Wayne Catalano, I think, is 8 wins from 3,000 on his training career, and I think that horse is well spotted. David Cohen rides that one today. I could see that one in the mix. Ocean of Storms, I thought, had a shot. I ended up on Camp Daddy just because I thought the horse was ultra impressive and beat me. I tossed the horse in that last out, and that was a big race. This is a big step up in class, though, too. So, and you get Ardenwood in here, so we'll see how things unfold, but I like that they stay in. I think they have one option, which is to go try to beat Ardenwood to the top. If those two duke it out, it could be a complete fall-apart race there in race 7. And then Read the Cliff Notes. It's just such a cool horse.
I thought that spot was going to be so tough, taking on open company, and I thought he probably ran the best race. And he ran huge.
Yeah, he ran a big race. The 10-time winner over the track, 15 of 19 on the board here at Hawthorne on his career for over $250,000 in earnings. Race 7 today, $4,000 claimers. They go 3/4 of a mile. It's a field of 8 to line up. Alex Mendezu is aboard the 8. Speedy G. This is an interesting race, too, because Makamad is a horse that I know you liked in that last out. Alpine Ghost, I know you gave a little bit of consideration to. Drew Breeze is the one that I went to. And then Kingswood, the Arnett horse, another runner that could be in the mix. So, again, if you're playing the late pick 4, this is probably a little bit of a spread race also.
I think so, too. And with some prices, and Makamad, that was just kind of where I downgraded, because last time I thought it was kind of that race, right, where he was flying under the radar. He was going to run a big race, which he did. Didn't just quite get there, but now he's going to be much shorter than he was that day. So I'm gonna shift the top pick focus to Alpine Ghost in here, because I think he's got the same pattern where he's sitting on that peak effort, but it just doesn't show up on the top of the past performances. So this would be the time to catch a price. It looked like a prep coming back on opening day, had some trouble at the start last out, ended up saving ground, and could just get the right trip in here. So this would be the time. Drew Breeze, I think, makes a ton of sense in here. And then I'm glad that you mentioned Kingswood as well, another one that had a better than looked effort last out.
Alpine Ghost is at his best here at Hawthorne, too. 8 of 16 on the board, over the track, likes running here. Emmanuel Giles is riding well, and like we mentioned, Jose Rodriguez is going really well here. So have to look a few different ways. I'll be curious to see what the prices are. I did end up with Drew Breeze on top. Julio Felix has had a tremendous meet thus far, too. And again, we'll just see where the value kind of goes there in race number 7. In the finale, 6250 maidens. They go 3/4 of a mile in the last. 11 of them in here. It's so hard because you have Secession, who's going to be really, really short, and then everybody else in the race. So I guess the question is, what do you do with this horse, and kind of how do you work beyond Secession in this race?
Yeah, it's the biggest field, but sometimes you handicap it, and it's like, this is Succession just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he stayed on his best of speed last out, lacked some finish, but in a little bit tougher. They're going to send today. This is the spot. I thought if there was any alternative, it would be Grand Festival, who I I hope the morning line sticks.
Yep.
Maybe it does on the outside.
Yep.
On their best day, they could be right there number-wise with Succession, so I win in that direction. And then I'll also give a mention number 6, Irish Coast, just because that debut race was a complete excuse. You can just kind of draw a line through. It was just an absolute messy break they weren't able to recover from. It was a higher race par than what they're returning today. Another live rider, Gallardo's aboard, which is positive. Mojica had been named on debut and is aboard number 9, sent him down the road.
Yep.
So who's going to be short just because it's Ravelli. But yeah, I thought Succession made a lot of sense in here. And probably, you think so too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be short. I mean, a smack over lime I had under the mix. Larry's lunchbox, I didn't know what to do with send him down the road, but you know that horse will take action, which provides value for everybody else in the race. Black Russian has even run some decent races in the past as well. So a lot of different ways you can look in the finale.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you're kind of looking at the sequence and saying a lot of those other races are races you kind of want to spread and trying to ditch the chalk, then maybe just say, I feel really strong. My strongest opinion chalk-wise is in the finale, even though it is the bigger field. You could find some value because people are going to spread, especially if you beat some chalk. If they are going to spread there, they probably are going short on a favorite somewhere else that you could beat. And it can work out. So there's so much strategy to putting a ticket together and trying to maximize your opinion and being different than everybody else trying to put their tickets together.
Well, and especially when you have just one scratch in the entire sequence, you have a great idea of how the track's playing, especially if it's playing evenly. It makes it even more intriguing. So see kind of how things unfold, but Succession should be very tough there to kind of close things out in the finale. All right, that's how we see the 8 races on this Sunday afternoon. Let's flip back to the opener. Take a look at the field for the first. As in the opener, we scratched the 3 that is Sapphire Knights. David Cohen, again, we welcome to the Hawthorne Jocks Room. He's aboard the 4 Heavenly Hash here in race number 1. $5,000 claimers, non-winners of 2 lifetime. 12% takeout and win play show wagers. Place pick 8, 50-cent pick 5. Emily, remind us, we'll start with the 4 Heavenly Hasher, your 4-5 favorite on the board. The other Eduardo Rodriguez that stays in the race.
Yeah, and Heavenly Hash, I mean, makes a lot of sense. They're going to take on winners for the first time, but this is a horse that has a lot of foundation. A lot of the races prior to the most recent win were against tougher. It was a much higher race par. And even though Heavenly Hash is taking on winners today, it's a similar race par. So you know the horse can compete under similar conditions. With that said, I thought the trip was a little bit of a setup. From the rail, broke slow, was able to save ground with the race flow. Kind of a lot of things went in their favor. That was just kind of the one knock if the horse was going to be a short price, but beyond capable.
And it's interesting. I mean, Yoel Novice was riding really well, and then he left town, and you get some others that are coming into town picking up these mounts. David Cohen's a very capable rider, so he'll be just fine aboard Heavenly Hash in his first mount here at Hawthorne. You go the 16th of a mile further, that's going to be beneficial as well. The big question is just going to be pace scenario-wise, because this one's probably tracking the pace and looking to run on late. But with that horse taking all the action and even money, it opens things up to me for the one horse in here. That is Heart of Hanish. Heart of Hanish right now currently sitting at 7-2 on the board. Orlando Mojica takes the return call for Antonio Miraz. We talked about Miraz winning a race yesterday and paying almost $20. This is a horse you're not going to pay nearly as much, but should be showing some speed from the inside.
Yeah, and the value is relative. I mean, Heart of Hanish broke their maiden on debut prior to that really long 600-day layoff, but won gate to wire. And then coming off the layoff at the fairgrounds, it was a tougher spot, much higher race par than today, like almost double. Showed early speeds, was able to get a lot of fitness, and then coming back from that April 7th race, even that race par is higher than today. There were poor weather conditions that day. It broke slow, had trouble start, made that wide rush before losing ground, and I think it's the perfect race to get the horse a spin over the track. And with that early speed in today's race shape, a scenario where this one can go gate to wire.
Yeah, and we're going to see how the track does play with that little bit of moisture in the spot here to see if it is a little bit more front end. But again, it kind of had that headwind in the lane, but it did play evenly yesterday. But yeah, I think that's the option. Wing it out there, try to get on the front, go as far as you can and see how things unfold. The 2 horse at 7-1 is Holy Image. This is a horse that'll benefit if the track does play evenly in this spot, because this is a horse that kind of tends to rate back a little bit early on and then come running at him late. The added distance has to help. Third start out of the meet has to help. And at 7-1, getting a little bit of backing too.
Yeah, and as she should. She's been improving with each race. Should be sitting on a peak effort. That slight progression race to race. Now in the third start of the off the layoff. Has that tendency to break slow. Van Diesel was aboard last out. Had been aboard in the past, but only one other start, and that resulted in a third place finish. It was a pretty competitive effort. And the reason I'm mentioning that is having the rider back aboard is to be able to get familiar with her and say, okay, she breaks a little bit slow. I've I've got to be a little bit more assertive. And as you mentioned, the extra half furlong ground doesn't seem like much, but it can make a big difference. And I like what I'm seeing. I think she's making a really positive physical appearance.
And you look at that last out that she came from. I mean, Opaline came back and won. Anaconda came back and won. Sapphire Knights would have been probably favored in this race had she run back. So Holy Image probably coming in out of a key spot. And I think this is a horse that definitely could be a little bit of a factor as well. 6-horse here at 6-1 is Miss K's Dynasty. Arthur Kuntz, the trainer, aboard this runner today. Arthur was an assistant for Chris Block for numerous years. And Miss K's Dynasty, Corey Orm in the saddle. Corey's ridden the horse in the last couple. It was a good victory in that last out. That was going a mile, though. You're back at 3/4 today, but they come back and they're going to give this horse a shot in here.
Yeah, I figure it's a reasonable spot, figuring that she won for 75. And look at that lightning bolt in the forehead. That's cute.
That is cute.
Making the first start of the year, so under similar conditions to where they can compete. But as far as the race back in December, came from well off the pace, going 2 turns. So Corey Orm's going to have to hustle her along in here to just get herself into the race.
Yeah, a horse that shouldn't have to hustle too much is the one walking right behind her, the 7. That's Evie Jean. Evie Jean's 9-1 right now. Alexis Centeno gets the call today. Evie Jean's intriguing because I don't think the horse really handled the slop much in that last out, but some of those fast track races last summer weren't too bad, and this is the one that maybe has the potential to rate the closest early to Heart of Hanish.
Yeah, quite possibly. Just being, again, it's kind of one of those getting the race over the track. You mentioned the poor weather conditions last out. There's prior rains, a little bit shorter distance. Centeno had been aboard in the past for only 1 start, but comes back aboard is a little bit more familiar to get her in contact with the field. The front wraps are back on today, but she won with the front wraps on last year.
Yeah, I'm not too scared of that either at 8-1. Then lastly, let's touch on the 5, Way Bally. This one from the barn of trainer Francisco Ramos. Frank Reyes gets the call today. A maiden score in that last out, but that was all the way in July of 2022. So I don't know what to make of Way Bally off that long layoff.
Well, I think that's why you're getting the price that you are, because that maiden win at Belterra was extremely dominant. You can play her back off that.
We'll see if we can get something out of her as they're going out for the opener. Good luck.
Coming on the track for the Sunday opener, they'll go 6 furlongs on a fast track. Scratch 3, Sapphire Knights. Field of 6. Rider change 4, Heavenly Hash. Make the jockey David Cohen. The weight's okay. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta. This race starts the rolling daily doubles, rolling pick 3s, the 50-cent pick 5, and the $1 place pick 8. Parading here they are. 1, Heart of Hanish, Orlando Mojica riding. 2 is Holy Image with Alexander Bendezu. 3 is Scratched. 4, Heavenly Hash. Note the jockey change here. David Cohen to ride number 4. 5 is Way Bally. Frank Reyes. 6, Ms. K's Dynasty. Corey Orm. 7 is Evie Jean with Alexis Centeno. Racing fans in this race, number 6, Ms. K's Dynasty is 1 pound over the program weight. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta. Starts the rolling daily doubles, rolling pick 3s, the 50-cent pick 5, and the $1 place pick 8. Track is fast. 6 minutes till post. Racing fans, we do thank you for joining us wherever it may be across the betting network. We are close to starting time for race one. Another windy day here in the Chicagoland area. This time it's a crosswind from the backstretch to the home stretch, 25, 30 miles per hour, gusting into the headwind also for those of you off track. We are close to starting time. This will be the final call for your first race selections, including rolling doubles, rolling pick threes, 50-cent pick five, and the $1 place pick eight. We have two carryover pools today. Third race, pick six carryover, $269. Eighth race, high five carryover, $573. We are close to starting time for race one at Hawthorne. Track is fast. Less than a minute nearing the gate for race one at Hawthorne. Racing fans are at the starting gate for race one, first of 8 on the Sunday program. Horses are entering the starting gate at Hawthorne. Last two to go in will be Heavenly Hash and Evie Jean. Waiting now for Evie Jean. She's in, they're all in the gate. They're off. Towards the inside, Heart of Hanish going for the lead. Holy Image close up. Then moving up alongside that one, Way Belly. Up along the rail, there goes Heavenly Hash in the fourth. Evie Jean out there fifth and trailing the field. Ms. K's Dynasty, they're covered by 6 or 7 lengths with a little more than a half mile to run. Heart of Hanish leads a little more than a length. Holy Image out there second. Heavenly Hash towards the rail begins to look for Racing Room third. Evie Jean 3 wide fourth. Then to the outside, Ms. K's Dynasty is on the move, and Way Belly drops out last. Final 3 furlongs, Heart of Hanish still has the lead. It's Heart of Hanish showing the way now by 2. In second is Holy Image. Then towards the inside, Heavenly Hash. Around the turn, they're in the stretch. Heart of Hanish comes off the turn. Heavenly Hash in the white cap looks for Racing Room. On the outside, Holy Image is battling on. Evie Jean trying to re-rally. And on the far outside, Miss K's Dynasty inside the final furlong. Here comes Heavenly Hash along the rail. It's Heavenly Hash now taking the lead in deep stretch. And Heavenly Hash will win the Sunday opener. Welcome to Hawthorne, David Cohen. Heavenly Hash won it. Heart of Hanish second. Holy Image third. Miss K's Dynasty came on to be fourth. In today's first race, 4 Heavenly Hash finished first, 1 Heart of Hannah second, 2 Holy Image third, 6 Ms. K's Dynasty fourth. 4126 is posted. It's unofficial. 112.31 the running time. Returning the unofficial winner for Heavenly Hash. Heavenly Hash is owned by David Dory, trained by Eduardo Rodriguez, was ridden to victory by David Cohen. Today's first race is official, running time 112.31. The exacta 4-1 for $1, $2.80, 50-cent trifecta 4-1-2, $4.